So I don't know enough science to keep me safe. So help me out. When I'm watching this, though, they were making the claim that Bill Gates and others have been harping on, banging on about population control and having to kill a certain amount of the population in order to get X, Y, and Z done for the environment, right? But it doesn't explain why they have this goop in their veins. The thing that I got to thinking was, is it possible, or is it science fiction, that this computer whiz was actually developing something akin to a network, like fiber optic, for lack of a better word, that could be injected into the human system, take over the human system, so that you become basically a tracking device? Is that possible at all?
Really, I do not see how that's possible. Your own immune system would reject that, and you die on the operating table if you get that kind of injection.
Yeah, I got that. I buy. But what is all this goop inside people's veins? It looks like putty.
It could be a plaque that is being made out of a protein similar to prion protein, or out of the ordinary albumin protein that you've got inside your bloodstream all the time.
So like
the same kind of albumin, by the way, that's in egg white. It's the same thing.
But it'd be like a texas of it.
A refolding of it, so that instead of being the nice soluble thing that helps keep other stuff happy, that it all starts to gloop together like a snot. I mean, that's what prion proteins do.
Okay.
Prion proteins are essential for your brain cells to actually work.
Right.
But when they unfold and refold the wrong way, they become this snotty glop, which is the amyloid plaque that Alzheimer's patients have. Well, that's possible with other proteins too.
Would that be in a person's veins? Is it possible it could develop?
That's why I said albumin. Albumin is quite abundant in your veins.
Okay. So is it possible that this thing could be the result of a chemical response to a bodily response to a chemical that was introduced to the system?
Yes, that is possible. That's much more possible than a higher technology end of tracking stuff.
Okay.
Because it's much easier to destroy a working protein and have it sit there as this snotty residue doing nothing than it would be to create a new function.
Right. Yeah, and I want to steer away from science fiction.
By the way, I kind of hope you actually are recording this.
I am now.
Okay.
I want to steer away from science fiction, and I want to steer away from really massive conspiracy stuff. Something's going on. We know something's going on. We know something's been introduced into the system of people for higher or lesser degrees. We know somebody was behind it all. There's no doubt about that shit. But if, like somebody proposed, when I was talking with them, they proposed that fiber optic cables are actually something that came out of Area 51. They're not human technology. That sounds like bullshit to me.
That sounds like total bullshit.
Yeah.
The fiber optic cable was a very intelligent invention that came along the heels of other similar things that came before.
Yeah, right. So to jump from that to is it an operating system introduced into the body? That sounds like bullshit. But it's bullshit enough that's terrifying and comes from a Bill Gates maniac. So you kind of the mind is like, is it possible? We don't know about it. It sounds too much like bullshit for me to say, oh yeah, I accept it completely.
I tend to think that it's bullshit as well, whereas I would not think it's complete bullshit that he wants to kill off 1 billion people to make the world more environmentally safe for him and himself.
Yes, because that's a mania that could drive a person in the same way the mania to exterminate the Jews is a mania.
Yeah. And like the mania to exterminate the Jews, it can be done without having to invent technology that isn't anywhere near completion.
Yes, right. That's so science fiction.
The low-tech solution is always the one that's more likely to work.
Yes, right. One man, one bullet, right?
Kind of, yes. You can produce quite a lot of bullets very cheaply.
Well, you know, I remember reading when I was studying the Nazis back in graduate school history class, you know, and I remember reading how they actually had these discussions about what chemical would be the most effective for murdering the most amount of people. You know, they came up with Zircon B. And, that kind of insanity runs fluidly in the human mind. So, much more so than the insanity that says we can invent these things that will kill lots of people, but it will eventually make them into, you know, cyborgs or conduits, hubs for a 5G system. That's far too complex, I think, for a human mind to come up with. Humans are stupider than that.
Yeah. The kind of stupidity you're going to see is always the kind of like gross, greedy stupidity.
Yeah.
Sexual desire stupidity.
Yes. Power stupidity.
And power stupidity. Even the desire to kill off an entire race of people is pig-like.
Stupidity.
In its stupidity.
Yeah.
By the way, so is the notion that killing off the elderly fifth, the most aged fifth of the population would be a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Our sister pointed out economically how stupid it is.
Yes.
Since there has to be a consumer class. To match a producer class.
Yeah.
And the elderly are an enormous degree the biggest consumers.
Right.
Of what other people produce.
Right. And you look at it just economically, it's this is going to sound horrible. The amount of cost that would be necessary to not just kill but to cover up completely outweighs any benefit that one would actually get from it. In my opinion, anyway. But I'm not a maniac.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think maniacs don't reckon the cost, though.
Probably not.
Which is why this crazy notion about killing off the eldest of the population, I think there's a lot of people stupid enough to do exactly that because they wouldn't think about it.
Yeah, I agree.
They would just say, Granny's a bird. Offer.
Yeah, and so let me ask you this. What do you ascribe as the motive for this I don't know, assassination drug? Why did they create it? It wasn't for COVID.
Why would one create it?
I mean, okay, there are two possibilities. There's stupidity and there's malice, right? If it's stupidity, it runs something like this. We've got a problem, we're going to try and fix it, but we need it on a massive scale in order to test it and see if it works. Oops, dang, our bad. Okay, that's stupidity. The other one is malice. We need to reduce the population fast, otherwise the planet's going to be destroyed, so therefore we're going to introduce something that's going to murder people on a huge basis, huge scale, and we're going to make them pay for their benefits so they accept it. We can cover it up better. So those are, and both are possible. And I gravitate towards one. I say, look, people are just dumbasses. First.
Yeah, I always tend to gravitate towards the stupidity explanation, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I can even expand on the stupidity one, because the more I think about it, the more plausible I think the stupidity answer is. That they would make a vaccine against the most mutable part of a virus with the expectation that they were going to have to keep making new versions and selling new versions of it, and that people would just keep buying it.
And they'd make buku money, and they might save some lives.
The thin lives, yes, insofar as lives saved have to buy the next vaccine, yes.
So on the stupidity... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, but again, going with the stupidity thing, the whole job was extremely rushed, too. I mean, seriously, they never did any realistic safety study of this at all, side effect study. I mean, it really wasn't done at all. That was the Operation Warp Speed. Skipped all the safety steps.
Good Lord.
But they were probably thinking, well, this is going to work as a vaccine, and it'll stop this round, but of course the virus will mutate, and then we'll have to sell the next round, and it'll be great. And they probably thought it was going to go at a slow enough rate of mutation that they would be able to maintain the appearance that their vaccine still worked as a vaccine. And the stupidity part kicked in when they discovered that nature doesn't work that way. Coronaviruses mutate in astounding speed.
Yeah, right. It kind of the
And
tiger
they had
the
picked
tiger
the
got
most
out of the
beautiful part of
cage.
it, too.
The tiger got out of the
I mean,
cage.
if they had made the vaccine against the viral replication origin component, it's called the ORI part, that one is much less changeable. If you made a good working vaccine against that, it probably would have lasted as long as, say, the chickenpox vaccine does.
Right. And that
does work very well.
Yeah. And in that narrative, the glue that's inside of people's veins is sort of an oops. We just didn't test to find out if this would happen, and now it's happening all over, and gee, are bad.
Yeah.
And I suppose you could add to the narrative and say, well, there is the added bonus that we are going to reduce the population, and that's a good thing because the planet needs to be saved. So, never let a good crisis go to waste. Maybe. I mean,
well, I wish I thought that my wealthy class who are like making these decisions were smart enough to avoid that step, but all of my life's experience has been
the opposite.
They aren't smart enough to avoid
the opposite. Gee, let's make a dam out of nothing but earth. See if it
We've
holds.
seen that before, Will.
Yeah, I know.
I know you're bringing up a real example. That happened.
Let's make the airplane so that every system is totally automated and all relies on a single sensor outside the airplane that, gee, will never freeze up in a rainstorm, causing us to crash over the Atlantic with everybody dying. That'll work.
I remember back in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit, and they discovered that the levees they had made, they drilled pylons that hadn't actually all gone to the bedrock because they saved money by building the same length of the pylon. That does not work.
Yeah, that's a thing.
So
that's the generous way of looking at it. Now,
the malice side of it.
Yeah, and I say go full malice if you're going to go malice. Is it possible that there are humans among us that think that they reign supreme and that they will stay free of any disaster that they cause on the populace?
I think, yes, that they have been so isolated from the consequences of the real world that they actually can believe that. Mm-hmm. And that they can think that they could wipe out 80% of the world's population and still be living the happy, rich lives that they are living, and that wouldn't all come back to burn them. So yes, I could see it done deliberately as an intended act to try and reduce the world's population. If you were to really fine-tail something, you would have to actually test this first. A vaccine could be made that could, to about 70% accuracy, wipe out an entire race and leave another one.
Like you mentioned.
To about 70%.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Coded to a race or coded to a certain genome, certain genetic type.
Well, you've got certain genome markers that go down racial lines.
Yeah.
And obviously there's been some intermixing of races, so some people would be have and has, and some of them would be selected by this marker, and some of them would not be. But yes, you could tailor a very nasty poison.
Yeah, a murder drug.
A murder drug that only adheres to certain molecular tags on the outside of your cells.
And that's,
or if you can get it inside the nucleus, that would spot only certain DNA sequences and then cut.
And
you only have to cut the nuclear DNA a little bit before the cell goes into its own programmed cell death. Do that on a wide scale, you're going to kill a lot of people.
Yeah. Or if this putty stuff is for real, you cause their system to just create the putty itself.
Spewing out a protein that is going to form plaques.
Yeah. And such that people that are experienced in the field have never seen anything like that before. Okay, so if that's not science fiction. then either either that's oops are bad, or it's boy, that's very effective for what we wanted to do.
I'm gaming this out as if that part is not science fiction in my head.
Yeah.
But if I was to do it, done on purpose to get something into the nuclei of your liver cells, you actually could get things that are going through your hepatic portal system to start spewing out stuff just like that.
Well, let me put this on the table.
Or the marrow too. Sorry, Will. Go ahead.
No, let me put this on the table. Given that. The people that are isolated from the normal human experience, they get scared that the world is overpopulated, and they have to reduce it because they have to reduce the carbon footprint or whatever bullshit it is. And they decide that they have to introduce something that's going to reduce that population fast. So if I go full conspiracy, I'd say they have to make it so that people voluntarily take it. And they voluntarily take it through one of the biggest motivators, which is fear. So they introduce a virus to the system, which is particularly lethal, engineered to be more lethal, maybe taking a natural one and engineering it so it becomes more lethal, gain of function. And they introduce it, and it's lethal, people get scared, the only thing that's going to save them is this jab, and so they get the jab, people line up for it. Boom, you've got a lot of people that are having the thing introduced into their system. Now the way to test whether that actually was the case, one way you can test it, is by looking at the number of deaths over a period of time and saying, would this have even a dent on the human population? And if it had no dent at all, then it's a failed experiment on the part of the perpetrator. In other words, it didn't work. Or they didn't intend it at all. It's just an accident. I mean, if the dent is small enough on the human population, it would be accidental. I would gravitate towards that. Because that sounds like you dropped the beaker in the lab rather than, you're concocting a murder poison.
Well, I don't know. You could do some pretty extensive damage accidentally, Will.
Well, no, you can. Absolutely. I mean, witness Chernobyl.
Yeah. Which could have been a whole hell of a lot worse than it was.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is that if it were intentional, the impact would be substantial. And I don't know if we're seeing it yet. I just don't know.
I guess I'll be letting you know for my own part whether I'm alive.
Yeah, well, don't test that. Don't put that to the test.
Well, I don't have to do anything. The test is already. I'm working pretty hard to make sure that I'm reversing conditions.
Yeah, right. Apparently, from what I was looking at, the samples that got jostled or mixed up or temperature changed did not have a severe effect on people as the samples that were pure, that actually arrived at the facilities intact in the way that they left the factory. So that's interesting. It means that
you're not referring to them as being potent against the virus. You're talking about it as it had side effects.
As in the ones that really created the goop and caused death were the ones that had not been jostled, tampered with, temperature changed.
Would this be primarily the one done with Pfizer, or is it indiscriminate whether it be Pfizer or Moderna, Johnson & Johnson?
Well, see, that's a good question. That's a very good question, because I would be very skeptical if all three colluded.
Well, I would too, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know there's some cooperation in the pharmaceutical industry, but mostly we're looking to cut each other's throats.
Yeah, not that much cooperation. Hey, look, guys, let's kill all the population of the world. Okay, we're in.
Yeah. Also, I do have to say too that the technology on which those vaccines work is different from one another.
That's
Moderna's and Pfizer's are basically the same technology as one another. Johnson & Johnson's is different.
So one is like the mRNA?
Moderna and Pfizer do the mRNA approach to help create spike protein in your system against which you create antibodies. Johnson and Johnson, they have a it's like a weakened type of virus into which you put the gene for the spike protein.
Oh yeah.
The Novavax one, they created huge quantities of the spike protein in fetal cells that came from moth lines, which actually was a very interesting development. And in my opinion, theirs works the best with the fewest side effects.
How about that?
AstraZeneca, I think that they had taken like the virus that the actual COVID virus that they had torn apart. I'm having trouble remembering that right now.
Okay.
But that's an older method of doing vaccines.
Interesting.
And Sinopharm did too, but Sinopharm's problem with their vaccine is they packaged it into a layer of fat that was too thick for the body to break through and actually get to the stuff on the inside to start developing any immunity against it.
So it's like over-the-counter vitamins or something that just passed right through your system.
Well, yes, actually. I mean, you don't think that little things like that are going to matter, but
They
it
do.
changes how fast the stuff gets released into your body, and if it's released too slow, you get no effect whatsoever. And if it's released too fast, you die.
Well, see, this is again why I err on the side of the oops factor, human stupidity. Because I think it's very easy to take somebody like Bill Gates and put him up as an evil dictator mastermind. I just don't think people are that smart, first off. Plus, the network you'd have to have in order to cover that up could be immense. And I just don't envision that happening.
Well, yeah, the conspiracy part, that's actually one of the reasons why I've never liked the conspiracy ideas, because you would have to have so many thousands of people willingly joining in on the conspiracy, whereas stupidity does not require that.
Right. And
it just requires herd thinking.
And stupidity, once it's released, does tend to cover itself up. So, I mean, I can see somebody being stupid enough to rush this in there, being like, yeah, we're going to save the world and make lots of money. And then the opposite happens, and you start covering it up. Or coercing people, or hushing people, or stripping them off YouTube, or whatever. I can see that happening. That's just a phone call. That's a phone call to Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, and say, hey, Zuck, we really need you to make sure people are given the right information so people aren't put in danger. And one sucker sucks in another sucker, and next thing you know, you have people just doing things that are stupid, but they do it because they want to keep their job, or they don't want to ruffle feathers, or they don't want to look like an idiot, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, I can envision that. It is.
Well, it's certainly not easier. The mechanism of doing that has so many fewer moving parts.
Yes, it does. No, you're right.
Like the head of the FBI calls up, as it turns out, Twitter and says, I want you to censor these things. As that turns out, that's exactly what did happen.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was seeing something about the news today. And I was so unsurprised.
Yeah, right, I know, me too. This is like really slow day in news.
It's another day of dog bites man, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the historical record that happens over and over again. The Nuremberg trials, they were saying, I was just doing my job. I didn't know what was going on, blah, 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 blah. And that's a form of stupidity right there. It was evil. There was a certain evil to it, but it wasn't evil like, moo, ha, 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 I'm going to take over the world. It was evil like, I just didn't bother to ask the questions, or I was too scared, or too proud, or whatever it was. But you got a disaster on your hands. It doesn't matter if you're stupid or malicious. There's a disaster. The dam fucking broke.
Yeah. And the engineers always work to say, well, it wasn't my design that caused
that's
it.
Right. That's right. It wasn't our drug. What was the...
It wasn't our design that caused this nuclear reaction to blow up. Oh, wait, it was our design that caused the nuclear reaction to blow up.
What was the drug that was... I saw a video on this. It was a drug back in the 60s that was introduced to fetuses and it caused all these fetal defects.
It's called thalidomide.
That's
it's a
the
very
stuff,
famous
thalidomide.
disaster
Oh
of
my gosh.
but
again,
terrible pharmaceutical agent.
Yeah, it was horrible.
By the way, thalidomide is an excellent anti-cancer drug. I just want to point that out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it works pretty well as a chemotherapy agent.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's better ones these days, but essentially they were giving what turned out to be a chemotherapy agent to pregnant women. Thalidomide's kind of odd this way because it's got two versions of the molecule, the left-handed and the right-handed one. The left-handed one is the poisonous one. The right-handed one is quite innocuous and will reduce morning sickness, is what they were giving it for. But what they never tested was whether or not the body was going to change the right-handed version into the left-handed version, and it does.
Oh boy. And that's what caused children to be born with no hands.
Yeah. No arms, no legs, no hands.
Christ.
Flipper babies is what they call them.
Yep, I remember that term. And there's another instance of people not being evil masterminds, but just being butt stupid.
Yeah. And they went ahead quickly because they thought they were going to get a lot of money out of it.
Lots of money.
Hey, pregnant women will want this. Give it to them, sure.
Oh, yeah. Like, what do you call it? Radioactive material in watches and paint, right?
Did they do that?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, back in the 1950s, there were all these toys that were made with radioactive material, so they'd glow in the dark.
That's a bad
and
idea.
And they did.
That's a very bad idea.
Here, Johnny. Have a radioactive lava.
So did they use uranium or plutonium or what?
Yeah, I think it's uranium. But that's, you don't screw around with that material unless you're stupid. But again, I think humans generally are stupid. And that's why I think it's much easier to say this whole thing has been a massive thing of stupidity. Now, stupid, like I said, stupid is not without evil. But it's not evil as the conspiracy idea wants it to be. And I take comfort in that, to be honest. Not that people aren't dying.
Well, yeah, so I mean, one of the comforting things is that people, when galvanized, would actually try and undo the evil that they did if they were galvanized.
Yeah. And you think that the majority of people, even people that were rah-rah vaccines, and even the people that were posting how evil anti-vaxxers are, those people, when they are shown, might have the possibility of saying, yeah, that was dumb. Try and fix it.
Incidentally, I did notice that our dear relative, who was vaccinated and boosted, I think 3 times, is recovering from the latest round of COVID now.
Yeah, no names, but poor fella.
No names.
I feel for him. Yeah, I feel for him. I really do. I feel for all the people that were coerced into doing it, or did it out of goodwill, or did it because they thought it was the right thing, or did it to protect others. I mean, I know people that did it because their wife had cancer, or their grandmother needed help, or whatever it was, and they did it for the best reason. And now they're sick.
Yeah. And the sacrifice was for nothing.
Yeah. And so, I get mad about it. I get incensed. I'm more than horrified. I'm more incensed about it. Just like, this whole thing was just so unnecessary. From the get-go. And it goes back to a few bastards that thought they were going to make a mint off of other people's suffering. So.
Some days I'm infuriated by it. Some days I'm sad by it. I mean, I'm particularly sad because I recognize that in my own case, it was all for nothing. I did it because they told me that I would be fired from my job if I didn't.
Oh, you got that.
And I needed to keep the job. Yeah. And then I got fired anyways. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm doing better these days. So
right, you're in a better place.
My job is better, but my health very rapidly went bad after I took that vaccine.
Gosh.
Beginning with the arthritis, and then with the liver troubles and the high blood pressure issues that kicked in. I'm on 3 blood pressure medications now.
Jesus.
Just within the space of 2 years.
That's just what Kate had, wasn't it?
Yes, Kate's and my symptoms have been extremely similar in terms of accepting that I didn't have that stroke, and she did. But other than that, she is also suffering from the arthritis. She also is having these wild swings of blood pressure happening.
Well, here I am mentioning names. I said I wasn't going to mention names, but dang.
Yeah, you a bad person.
Yeah, I know. Hey, let me pause for just a second. I'm going to, because this is already 33 minutes we've been talking. I want to pause it and start another 33. Otherwise, if I do upload, it'd be tough to upload a 2-hour discussion or whatever this is going to be. And I do want to talk about Graham Hancock. So give me just a second.
I'm going to shoot you while you do that. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Shoot the hell out of it.
You have been engaged.